Some are writing about it. Okay. But I'm trying to go a little bit. Did you watch the movie Leave America Alone or Leave America Behind? The movie with Barack Obama that he was the. Have you seen that movie or no?
No, I haven't seen that.
Why are you smiling?
I wouldn't say Barack
Leave
Obama.
the world behind.
I wouldn't. Barack Obama would not be on my top 10 filmmaker list.
Well, if there's anything that I would want you to watch is this one. Not because it's a great movie. When you watch it, you'll see why. I'm surprised you haven't seen it, by the way. It is a very weird movie. There's a scene in this movie where a massive ship, okay, is coming towards, we can't play this obviously for obvious reasons, but a massive ship is coming towards the beach. And the daughter, this baby is sitting there saying, that ship's getting closer and closer and closer and closer until eventually it just comes through. Planes start crashing. Teslas are all driving into each other. I mean, it's a pretty epic movie if you've not seen this. And he is the executive producer with Julia Roberts and a couple other people. Then a movie is being launched right after that called Civil War. We were talking earlier off camera. And my question is the following. If, let's just say, election date, I think it's November 5th, is a Tuesday. If on that day, there is some gamification going on where certain people don't have access to voting and others do, and the election goes in a certain way, how ugly do you think it'll be in America?
Gamification?
Yes.
What do you mean by
gamifying? Meaning they can gamify and manipulate is what I'm saying.
Look, a lot of countries have moved back to paper ballots and vote on that day. Let's do that. Simple.
You think we're going to do that?
No chance of hacking. We should.
You think we're going to do that?
I think state by state, we should. Absolutely.
Not should. The should is a different. There's a lot of, things we should be doing, but as a country, again, if in any possible way there's manipulation gone, and there is phones off, phones not working, certain things not happening, places you're going to want to vote, maybe it's not working. There's challenges with technology, with software in that area that is causing you to wait in line for 8 hours, and families are sitting there saying, dude, I can't wait for 8 hours. My kids are waiting out the house. I got to put them down. If there's that level of frustration where a mom or dad is going to say, I just can't wait anymore. I got to go home. And that affects the election, and there's proof of that, how ugly could it get in the States?
And if no clear candidate wins 270 electoral votes, the founding fathers are so brilliant. They thought of everything. So it goes to the House of Representatives, and the House decides. It happened before. It was John Quincy Adams versus Andrew Jackson. Nobody won the Electoral College, clearly. It went to the House. John Quincy Adams won, and then Andrew Jackson came back 4 years later and crushed him.
So you're not worried about it? You're not worried about 2024? There's a lot of people that are.
Of course I'm worried about it. There's a process, and let's follow the Constitution.
I mean, of course. I mean, people want to follow the Constitution. You say it in a way where you're assuming everybody will. Do you think the concept of civil war is capable of happening in the States anytime soon, or not in America? Not the way the founders created it.
I've read a lot of American Civil War history, and the feel and the vibe in the country, and some of that feels like it would today. But here's the thing: a civil war would not necessarily be. It's really going to be rural versus urban. That's the difference. It's not a regional. It's not a north versus south. It's rural. It's rural versus urban is where this divide is, which is a very different equation.
Tell me more.
Trump won in 2016. Trump won 3,100 counties. Hillary Clinton won 80.
Yet the ones that she did win
are big urban,
top 20 metropolitan blue cities.
Yes. So if that becomes a civil war, it becomes a very unpopular place to be. Not because those places don't have enough food, don't have enough water. That becomes very, very bad for them.
Are you a preparer?
Not really.
No?
No.
Live a simple life. You're not, concerned about what could happen.
Yeah. I have a few guns.
I have a few guns.
I have a few friends.
Just a few? Is that what it is? Just a couple. You got like
And a great alumni association.
Alumni association. Who out of all our enemies do you fear the most? Like if you were to say our most formidable enemies, who would you say are the enemies that you fear the most?
Look, the sad thing is if the left had not done the lie of the Trump-Russia collusion bullshit, which is proven to be bullshit after $50 million of investigation. If they'd not done that, Trump could have made a deal with Putin on Ukraine, and it would have pulled with Russia on Ukraine, et cetera, pulled Russia in from the cold and pulled them out of the orbit of China, right? The U.S. policy for 100 years, and even before we really got involved in Europe, the goal was to keep German industry away from Russian resources. But now we've pushed Russian resources into the hands of Chinese industry. And really, Russia is in a subjugated role. So I think the medium and long-term security interest of the United States is to bury the hatchet with the Russians and pull them away from an orbit of China. Because culturally, we have a lot more in common with Russia than we do with China or Japan or Korea or India. Fact. So our major threat, the major threat to liberty in America, is still the Chinese Communist Party. When you read the statements that Xi makes to the Standing Committee, there's a great article written in Foreign Affairs by Matt Pottinger. And he actually takes chunks of Xi's statements that don't normally get translated into English. And he says, prepare for great conflict. And it is basically the job, the mission of this Chinese Communist Party to remake the world in the image of the Chinese Communist Party and to overthrow the Westphalian Order. Now, if you've never heard of the Westphalian Order, I know you have, but it's basically the role of the modern nation state and our role as citizens within that. And they want to remake it into the role of just like China. Hell no to that. And I think the next administration, and China has for like the last 19 centuries, it's been one of the biggest economies, if not the biggest in the world. But they have a habit of coming together under a strong dictator and then, a century later, fragmenting apart. I think it's better for China to be a bit more diffuse and less controlled by Beijing. And that is in all of our interests. Even especially the neighbors of China would especially agree with that. Because they don't want to be Sinofied.
And by the way, their economy isn't as good as people think it is. They're getting hammered right now. It's
correct. Look what they did to Jack Ma, right? Jack Ma is like a combination of Jeff Bezos and Steve Jobs, like literally an amazing tech innovator. And so Jack Ma started Alibaba, which is 10 times the volume that Amazon does. And all this, he made some comments critical of the government and the central bank and the CCP, and instantly he's disappeared from view. Like literally one of the wealthiest guys in China, he disappears, and some months later he's found lecturing to an elementary school, and the media announced that he'd embraced supervision. Whoa. Okay, so that's the message they've done to their tech sector. I can tell you that the Chinese money is fleeing China as much as humanly possible. They're going to Europe. They're going to Dubai, anywhere they can. There's a huge Chinese population in Australia that's gotten out because they want to live free and not be under the boot of the CCP.
Where's Jack Ma nowadays?
He is in China.
Still.
Under supervision. About 3-4 years ago, no, not even, 3 years ago, he made a trip to Spain to basically clear out bank accounts, to sign them over, and he was surrounded by 12 Ministry of State security agents while his family is held hostage back in China. So they hold him by the balls.
This all happened after a speech he gave. I don't know if you saw the speech he gave. A little bit critical. It wasn't like overly critical.
Yeah.
That was it.
He wasn't throwing down.
No, he wasn't throwing down.
Bam!
Like, this is it. You can't talk like this. You can't talk. Where are we united at in America? Like, if you were to say the left, right, center, everybody, what topics are we united on that you see? Is there anything we're united on?
A country is a country when its people have some commonly held beliefs. And if we can't even agree on what is male and female anymore, we have a problem, right? The Democrats' last candidate for the Supreme Court could not define, supposedly some Harvard-trained lawyer, couldn't define what a woman is. So that's a problem. The last Civil War kicked off over states' rights. It was over trade, and it was over slavery, and people went to war over that. Maybe it's worth going to war over defining what a gender is, because I certainly know what a gender is, and there are some things I'll fight for.
Yeah, that's the part, right? When you got kids, and your kids get into it, you bring them in.
Like I got grandkids now.
Well,
yeah.
Congratulations. I'm far away from having grandkids. My oldest is 12. I swear, if I become a grandfather soon, I'll be very upset at him.
Yeah.
But and impressed slightly, but more upset. But so I got kids, and you know when these guys get into it and they fight, and as a father, you first let them do their thing. And there's levels of fights, right? Level 1, level 2, level 3. They got
right.
6, 7, maybe 8, 9. You kind of get involved. Okay, we got to talk, guys. And you start off by saying, "Hey, what do you guys, agree on? This is your brother. You'll love him. This is your this," and you kind of go through it. So let's just say we're trying to figure out a way to put the people from the left and the right and the center in the same room, okay? Yep. And you're the mediator. They've hired you, Erik. That's your new job, okay? To mediate these guys. Easy job, not a tough one.
Hell has frozen over.
It's frozen over. And you show up, right? And you're trying to bring them together. What do you ask them? Like, what do you say? Do you say, "Hey, guys, can we all agree that America is the greatest country in the world?" "No, it's not. Do you know what we've done?" "Okay, let me try a different way. Do you guys love your family?" "I love my family, but I know he doesn't love his family." How do you start to get these guys to start at a common,
I think the amplification of social media of idiots is, look, I think I think you're going to see an awakening of what were traditional Democrats that feel abandoned by that party, and even Black and Hispanic votes that are, most Black and Hispanic voters know what a male and a female is. They know.
Muslims as well, by the way. You can put Muslims in that too.
Absolutely.
They definitely know it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you focus on basic economic opportunity. Again, a candidate that runs on decartelizing industry wins. What did the U.S. Army do? The mission of the U.S. Army after World War II in Germany: denazification, demilitarization, and decartelization. The difference, again, I'm drawing on that book from Tepper. Seeing what John D. Rockefeller did, controlling most of the hydrocarbon industry in all of America. And then when the Sherman antitrust laws come along and they break up Standard Oil and it becomes all kinds of oil companies. And John Rockefeller made more money doing that because he had a bunch of businesses. But the Germans saw that and they did that to their industry. And so it made it very easy in the 1920s, as they became bigger and bigger cartels after World War II, very easy for the Nazi Party to control German industry, much easier to control 30 companies than 30,000 entrepreneur-led companies. We need America, we need hundreds of thousands of entrepreneur-led businesses with a very sharp elbow competition instead of the Fortune 500. Here's the thing. Even in the last 20 years, there is half the amount of public listed companies than there used to be. Why? Over consolidation. And how is that allowed to happen? Because it's like a $220 For every dollar you spend in lobbying, they get $220 return. It's like a
What a great rate.
22,000% return, which is why we have too many damn lobbyists in Washington, D.C. And the 5 counties surrounding Washington, D.C. are the wealthiest per capita in the country. All of that is not a sign of a healthy society. So fix that.
Yeah.
Teddy Roosevelt, total badass, got shot while he was campaigning, finished his speech, then he went and got fixed. He led a very, very rough but effective antitrust effort. We need that in America. A rising tide really does lift all boats, and making it possible, whether you are super poor or you're middle class or whatever, easier to start a business, to get access to capital, all the rest. And it's even the same argument on governance. One of my favorite authors is Hernando de Soto, and he wrote Invisible Capital and The Other Path. And he was a Peruvian economist. He was a Peruvian, managed a big construction firm in Switzerland, made all kinds of money, went back to Peru and said, why is Peru so rough? Why is Switzerland so nice? And he built a consulting firm around installing the basic building blocks of capitalism, like title for your land, a bank account, a business license, a commercial remediation, a way to commercially adjudicate disputes, all the things we take for granted, right? If you want to form a business in America, you can call 10 states and get it done for $200 in a half an hour. You can get a bank account. You can get, that stuff exists, but the more regulation, this runaway regulatory state that now puts out like an average of 78,000 pages of rules, which has the force of law, which has never been voted on. When the regulatory state's allowed to do that, we truly have a constitutional crisis, because we're supposed to have 3 branches of government, executive, legislative, judiciary, but we have a 4th permanent state bureaucracy that is not elected, not accountable, yet can write rules with the force of law. That must change.
I just ordered a book, The Mystery of Capital.
Yeah.
That's what you were talking about.
So, back in the 80s, Peru had a terrible problem with the Shining Path, the Sendero Luminoso, which was a Marxist, Maoist insurgency. And when they enacted De Soto's reforms, land for the people that they owned, it was over. Because the campesino said, this is my land, pal. Get out.
That's right.
No more commies.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.